One. So I'm going to go ahead and start welcoming folks. I know we have a lot of folks who are jumping in a little late, but thank you for coming to the Washington State chapter of NIGP's May Lunch and Learn. We're excited to have Rebecca Greier Horton. Did I say it right, Rebecca?
Yes, yes, thanks.
Awesome, awesome. Join us from MillerKnoll. She's an economist and senior insight strategist. I'm going to have her introduce herself a little bit later, but as we're getting started, I wanted to welcome you all to this Lunch and Learn. We're going to be talking about ergonomics everywhere. We have a few upcoming events, just kind of want to make note of. Tomorrow, May 2nd, the 14th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th, and we'll throw the slide up at the end as well, but we have the NIGP Learning Labs, and I don't know, Victor, if that's part of your Learning Labs or if it's a different one. We also have next week the VCon. So if you haven't registered, it's $150. It's about 19 hours of credits. And it's all virtual, and it's for new folks. So folks who are newer to procurement, and then they have a track this year for first-time managers. So, or if you're starting to get into management. And so I really would highly encourage you if you can. I think most of the sessions will be recorded. So if you can't make them all at real time, you'll be able to go back and listen to those later. So take a look at that. That's a steal of a deal for 19 credits. May 9th, we'll have an Emerging Professionals Roundtable. And then our upcoming next Lunch and Learn is June 5th, and that is going to be our very own Cherie and I think Lori from the Tacoma School District, and they're going to be talking about P-card programs. So tune in if that's something that is you participate in. And then June 13th, we're going to have a joint emerging professional roundtable with a lot of the other chapters within NIGP. So we're going to have a lot of other emerging professionals join in. It's going to be something to definitely pay attention to. And then just a quick reminder, we will not have any Lunch and Learns during July and August. It's a busy couple months for everybody. And then a lot of us are attending Forum, NIGP Forum, August 25th through the 28th. So that is kind of our upcoming events. So I do want to give a couple quick reminders. Go ahead and mute yourself so you can join the presentation, and so can everyone else. If you are looking for credit, we need you to put your full name. So go ahead and right click on your video, choose rename, and make sure that you have renamed yourself so we can give you credit for this session. And if you have questions, we're going to hold those to the end. Go ahead and stick them in chat. We'll go back and take a look at them. But we're going to hold those to the end because chances are Rebecca is going to be able to get to those throughout the course of her presentation. So that is all I have for announcements. So Rebecca, I am going to turn this over to you to kind of introduce yourself and get us started.
Thank you. Before we get started, Cindy and I are with MillerKnoll, and I have been asked many times, what is that? It's hard to recognize because we did merge. It was Knoll and Herman Miller. We've come together, and we are a family of brands. So if you see any of these brands, and we have storefronts as well, that's MillerKnoll. So thanks for having us today. About me, the only reason I want to tell you about me is so that you know that I am a credible resource. I'm a licensed professional environmental geoscientist. I've overseen environmental health, safety, and sustainability departments for Fortune 50 companies in my previous lives. And I'm an international leadership development coach. I'm a psychological safety coach. I sit on the board of the Office Ergonomic Research Committee, where I serve as a CEAS and ergonomic specialist. I'm very involved in International Well Building Institute, Well Building Standard as a concept advisor and a faculty member. I lead our global enable team at MillerKnoll, which advocates for individuals with disabilities. That is where my heart is, with supporting individuals with neurodiversity and also visible disabilities. And I happen to be a Pilates instructor. Talk about posture. I'm a super posture stickler, so it's kind of funny. This is like right up my alley. This is one of the content areas I cover, so I'm really pleased to be able to share this with you today. And today's concept is Everywhere Ergonomics, real tips for real life work scenarios. It was very important to your organization to bring you this content because work has changed. You're not sitting, day in and day out in the same location. You're up and around, and many times those places are changing, and they may even be your home work environment. And so your organization wanted to make sure that you were fully supported in how to remain healthy, physically, socially, cognitively. So before we get started, I'm going to read this like a commercial on on nighttime news. The information presented during this virtual session is not intended to diagnose any medical condition or replace your healthcare professional. The information is informational and for educational purposes only. We are not doctors. This is not medical advice, so none is implied. None of the suggestions included in the sessions are known or likely to cause you any problems, but it's always recommended if you have difficulties for you to see your own personal physician. So let's move forward with this content. So everywhere ergonomics or ergonomics everywhere. How did this start? My personal journey with this began immediately before pandemic. I had a 15,000 client opportunity here in Dallas, Texas. And I can tell who it is because they are very proud of their opportunity. It was Airlines. And while they were transitioning to a brand new campus, they had a lot of their employees working from home or working from other, like we call them third spaces, and they needed ergonomic support. So over the course of an entire year, I doubt I met with every single 15,000 people, but we had really large classes to share this content and hone this content. So it was really of use to this 15,000 individuals. And the last day that I spent with them, they got me a pink unicorn. So I think that means that they were happy with the content. Who could ask for more? And so what this is, when we embrace human-centered design, well-being is purely fostered. Well-being boosts employee engagement and increases attendance, retention, and attraction rates. Healthy employees, we know, are more productive and they're less likely to call in sick. They're just more engaged. So when we think of integrated well-being, we think of nurturing holistic health with physical, social, and cognitive ergonomics. Physical ergonomics everyone knows about. It's just, the things, the fit of the human body to the task. Social ergonomics is also known as organizational ergonomics. It's how our organizations function in a space together. And then finally, cognitive ergonomics is our mental fit to our task. And we talk about trying to lessen cognitive load, which makes us able to focus on our work. So I want to focus on something that's incredibly important, and that is just basic movement. Before we dive into ergonomics and sitting properly, movement is critical. In the US, people sit on average 7 hours a day. That is, in my job, I feel like I perhaps sit more than that. I try not to, but I do. Prolonged sitting, I'm sure everyone saw this. Sitting is the new smoking. That was several years back, and now loneliness is the new smoking. But it truly is bad for us. It causes heart disease, brain fog, fatigue, just to name a few things. And experts have now settled out on recommending that for every hour, we stand for 5 to 20 minutes. 20 minutes should be your goal. You can start out with 5 minutes and work your way up to that. And so you try to do that throughout the day. And height adjustable furniture can help do that. And training on why we need this is another aspect of movement as a natural part of our days. So it's incredibly interesting to see, the mix of sitting and standing. When you think about this, and I've interviewed so many different people in the course of my time, I've had folks say, I stand the whole morning and then I sit in the afternoon. And that sounds great until you really look at the research. And the earliest research has shown us that constant moving throughout the day is the most healthy. So if you sit all the time, you're most likely going to encounter lower back pain and cervical spine pain, neck pain. If you stand all the time, you're also going to have those symptoms. It's sitting and standing throughout the day at different intervals is what keeps your body healthy. I mean, if you look at all the different places our bodies bend, we have joints for a reason, all right? We're supposed to be in movement. So keeping that body in movement is what helps to stave off back pain. All standing or all sitting, both bad on both ends. And why we really, we care about human beings, but it's good to know from your organizations that healthcare costs run about $3 trillion a year, and that's combined with insurance costs and personal healthcare costs that are related to musculoskeletal disorders, or MSDs, as we call them for short. So, those are pain from the neck, low back joint, and the limbs. So bear in mind that's why we really put a lot of time on this. Now, it was important for your organization to understand, the mind-body connection and to really draw a scientific connection between those things. So until recently, you hear mind-body thrown out all the time, and you're like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. But in the scientific community, that started to become challenged. And there's a group of neuroscientists who really wanted to delve into that. And until just about a decade and a half ago, the only way that we could see anything from a neurological perspective was through a traditional MRI. About 15 years ago, functional MRIs were developed and implemented, which means that those electrodes can go on the head and a person can walk around in the course of the day. So you can see their brain working as a part of their day when they encounter stress, body strain, what have you. So it shed an entirely new light on the mind-body connection. So there's this Dr. Peter Strick, who's a leading neuroscientist in the United States. He's specifically currently out of University of Pennsylvania. And what he found was he mapped the neurological pathways throughout the body and located that there is a direct correlation with the stress that starts to accumulate in our brain when we have physical pain in our muscles. So there is a affirmation, and this was in 2019, that there is that true mind-body connection. And when your mind is stressed, you've got your brain, there's your amygdala, there's your prefrontal cortex. When your body is stressed, you go into fight, flight, freeze, and you're not able to think properly. So having your body in proper alignment actually increases your cognition. So percolate on that for a second and think about posture, slouching. Why do you have to sit up? I went to private girls' school, and I was like, you have to say you have. Adults, do we sit up? You're at work, you're wanting to accomplish and be your best self. Part of that is your cognition. So knowing that there's that scientific connection, we're going to delve into how do we do that, and how do we do that when we are everywhere. This diagram comes from HFES, the Human Factors Ergonomics Society. It's also associated with the OERC, the Office Ergonomic Research Committee. And what it shows is this woman in the cartoon form sitting in an ergonomic posture that is the start posture. So think about a golf swing or a runner getting ready to run a race. They're in that perfect posture and getting ready to start the race before the gun. And then they go about their day. So this posture is not a frozen posture that you stay in all day, but it's your beginning posture. Because if you gravitate back to that posture throughout the day, that's going to protect your spine, your joints, what have you. And so that's why we focus on this. So the simple way to do that is look at this model's eyes. Her eyes are cast at the top third of the monitor. Her wrists are in alignment. They're not bent or crooked. Her elbows are down next to her body so that she's not extending out of neutral. She's not reaching forward. And I want you to think about the importance of that. And that if you held a bowling ball out in front of you, or if you held a bowling ball at your waist, which would be easier to maintain? It would be much easier to maintain when something's closer to your waist. So even with just a simple movement throughout the day, having your elbows close to your side reduces your fatigue. So that's really important to not work out of neutral there. And then finally, your feet. Your feet are positioned flat on the floor so that you have that firm foundational support. So how do you accomplish this? She's in a perfect office environment. She's from the Human Factors Ergonomics Society diagram. She's got all the tools she needs: task chair, height adjustable desk, monitor arm. But what if you are missing those things? And that's what I'm going to share with you. So the model on the right, that happens to be my daughter. Actually, we shot these photos during COVID. Yep, lovely young lady. She has a task chair because her mommy works for MillerKnoll, but she does not have an adjustable height surface. So how do you attain that posture? Well, if she lowers her task chair, she's going to be put in the awkward position of having to reach up to that work surface that's fixed. This is important for all women on this call, that you need to know this. So the 50th percentile female seated is too short for most work surfaces. So think about that. Half of the women in the workforce, the standard work surface is too tall. That's why we have shoulder pain, back pain, because we're trying to reach up to a surface that is not made for us. So think about that. This is the biggest adjustment for females in the work environment, is getting that position as she has. She's raised her task chair to where now her wrist, you see, because she's starting from the top down, her eyes are cast to the top of her screen. She got that corrected by adding some height with magazines. Her elbows are at her side. Her wrists are now perfectly aligned. She's not reaching up to that surface because she's elevated her chair, but her little feet would be dangling if she had not inserted, and that is just a giant cutting board under her feet. So that's a hack that you can use if you're trying to boost yourself up to reach the work surface. You don't want to reach up to the work surface and be in a position like this because you will incur pain. So by using these simple hacks, she has configured her workstation to where she's not having her feet dangle off the edge of her seat. The danger of having your feet dangle off the seat is that that impinges your popliteal nerve, and that causes nerve damage over time. So this is one way to get here. And before someone pops it in chat, you're going to get a PDF version of this so that you can refer back to these pictures and like kind of look at yourself or have a friend look at you and get your body into alignment. So what do you do if you don't have a task chair? That's a reality. So we're working in third locations. It is possible to, add something, prop your feet on anything and add a little boost up with a cushion on a regular chair. And then in this case, she's showing a different creative way of getting that monitor, which is her independent, it's her laptop. She's using a little kitchen rack to elevate that. So you notice she was able to kind of boost herself up by sitting on a pillow. This is not a long-term solution, but it's, if you're working from a third location, you're like, ooh, I'm incurring pain right away. This is just some small little hacks to help get you through and get you positioned in a comfortable setting. Standing. So remember, we said that experts recommend standing 5 to 20 minutes on each hour. And height adjustable furniture is fantastic, but it's not always available. So we're going to look at the HFES model on the left, and he is standing perfect. And you notice he's got the same posture as the woman seated. He's just standing. So his eyes are cast to the top of the screen. His elbows are by his side. His wrists are nice and nicely aligned, and his feet are on the floor. The thing that I'll add onto that is that a very nice touch when you're standing is to push that task seat all the way under your desk and use one of the 5-star base pieces as like a footrest so that you can switch your foot back and forth, kind of like, when they have bars and they have a bar in the bar where you can put your footrest because that does alleviate tension in the spine. So that's something that you can do. So you ask yourself, what do I do if I'm in another location? Or what do I do if I'm at home and I don't have a standing height desk? Well, you can walk around your home and look for something that hits you right at the elbow. And you can use that as your standing height surface. So search around your location, find that. And I've heard every creative place you can imagine especially during COVID. It was very funny to hear all the creative places that people could find to work, to where they could just stand for a moment. Now, in order to get your screen at the to your eye height, again, you're going to have to use a hack. There are all kinds of things that are sold that we sell even, but if you are just looking for a moment of respite to help your neck, use a rack, use books, anything to help get that up at your height. Separate the keyboard with an independent keyboard and an independent mouse. And you can stand and be perfectly in alignment for a good period of time. So thinking about the fundamentals, the basics, you need a task chair, really important to protect your spinal alignment. Varying surfaces in your location. So if you're not in a place in the office where you have that height adjustable desk, having varying surface, you can sit here, you can go stand somewhere else. Separating your monitor from your keyboard tray and your mouse, that's critical. And then task lighting, because the posture is dictated by the eyes. So if the light starts to dim, what do? We start to lean in to our screen to see better and immediately throw our posture out of alignment. So task lighting is also an element of that. So just these remote work basics, for long periods of sitting, use a task chair. Find your spaces with variable work surface heights, so that you're ready to stand. Don't wait until you're in pain to start looking around. Kind of identify that from the get-go. Find a way to separate your keyboard from your screen. If you don't have a keyboard and mouse, get one now. It's critical. You think, I'm only going to work off my laptop. It's only going to be for a few minutes. And then 2 hours later, you're in excruciating pain. That's how that cumulative pain adds up over time. Save yourself from that. And then, of course, the eyes always win. So make sure that you have ample lighting. Tech neck is a thing. Chiropractors and physicians are seeing this insane increase in 20-something, 30-something year olds who have posture of 70, 80-year-olds from looking down all the time. So we go from looking at our computers at work, from sitting, if somebody's watching something that's boring, I'm going to take out my phone, I'm going to start looking at my phone. From looking at something in our phone, tech neck is coming about. So protect your neck, and the way you do that is getting your posture up and casting your eyes forward. Another way to do this, and this is something that I learned from a lot of technologically inclined people from sharing this content. They're like, oh, you know what I do to keep my neck straight forward is I just cast my content onto my screen. I would have personally not have thought of doing that, but a lot of folks are able to do that. So if you have a compatibility issue where you can connect to your actual television in your home or a third space, it keeps you from looking down. So that is certainly a way of getting your posture upright so that you're looking across the room. Another benefit of that is that our vision tends to start to shorten in focal length when we just have that same focal length all the time. So if you can cast your eyes across the room to look at content and to scan something, maybe not a spreadsheet, but content that's easily accessible, that helps to exercise your eyes and increase your focal length. Bottom line, though, just move throughout the day. So as you develop these hacks and you learn about these new postures, keep in mind that no matter how good that posture is and no matter how good that position is, the next position is the best position. You want to keep moving. So it improves blood circulation. That's one of the main benefits of it. It's good for your back, keeps your back from freezing up, and it gives you an energy boost. So your metabolism kind of settles out when you just feel like you're just zoning out. It's because you are, your heart rate's down, everything is down, you start to zone out, you're tired. So instead of reaching for that energy drink, stand up, move around, and it'll increase your blood flow and give you that little shot of energy that you're needing. Every sit to stand movement equals 1 squat. So you think about, okay, I'm gonna start embracing the sit to stand lifestyle. Every time you stand up and sit down, that's 1 squat. So it's those little incremental movements throughout the day that add up to your overall health. So let's look at best practices for video meetings, because let's face it, this is part of this, we're caught in this web of constantly having, every pun intended, of having video meetings. So best practices: position your camera parallel to your face so that you're not having the camera, pointing up or down at you, because again, your eyes are going to lead the body and you want to have that upright position. Sit approximately, 2 feet from the camera. Make sure that your font is blown up to the sides to where you're not leaning in. And be mindful that throughout your day, your focal length will change. Like when your blood sugar drops, you may feel like, oh, my focal length isn't as acute as it was in the morning. That's true. And that's why having monitor arms is great, because you can move them in and out, but be mindful of not leaning forward and craning your neck, especially your cervical spine. Purchase an external webcam for best quality for your meetings. Make eye contact with the camera. you know, these are these good habits to get into, you know, from an overall cognitive perspective. It helps the individuals on the other end of the camera, their cognition, to look at you and see you. Avoid cameras that are toward, you know, exterior windows. There's a glare for the other participants. So, you know, when I'm looking at individuals, you on the call, if I had a bright window behind me, it would cause glare for you. So when you're setting up your work environment and you're incorporating these hacks, also, you know, consider your body, but consider the well-being of the others on the other end. Choose a background with few distractions. That's something for your cognitive load. It definitely helps for, you know, that increased concentration. It's very hard to concentrate on these because we tend to drift off because it's just boring. We know Yale University has now, you know, proven what we already knew in our guts, that face-to-face interaction is so much more meaningful and stimulating than video interaction. You know, they did it, same thing. They connected electrodes to individuals' heads, and they, you know, confirmed, yes, our eyes dilate, heart rates increase slightly when we're face-to-face, but we have to at times be on video. So know that it's more challenging. That's why these best practices for video meetings are important, because it helps you to heighten that experience. And avoid common moving objects like fans. Avoid overly using your hands. I can't talk without using my hands, but it does cause the screen to freeze up on occasion. And avoid complex patterns. Some things to think about, just your technology considerations overall. You know, prepare on the front end of this, so that you're not reaching for things as you're going about your day. Have everything in its space. Your headphones, your camera operational, everything that's working, so that you are minimizing your cognitive load as you go to that meeting and you're setting up, because it does add up over the course of the day. Now, one of the things that I share with you, and it'll be included in your packet, are some common pain quick fixes. Again, we're not doctors, but these are very common in the world of ergonomics. And these are highlighted so that if you're having neck and jaw pain, you know, is your monitor too far away? Or do you need new glasses potentially? If you're having shoulder pain, it could very well be, and remember that person that's sitting up straight with the elbows to the side, that you have mouse creep. So mouse creep is when, and it happens all the time, someone starts mousing and then you look down and you're like, why is my arm all the way across my desk? It's all the way over there for no other reason than it just crept over there. So pull your elbow back to your side to troubleshoot that, because that will start to have pain that's radiating in your neck and down your shoulder. That happens over time. Check your wrist constantly to make sure that your work surface height is compatible so that you're not bending your wrist. This app, you know, operates as one of the very first things you learn about ergonomics is carpal tunnel. This operates like a water hose. And if you have an old water hose and it gets bent or pinched, nothing's going to flow through that. The nerves are the same way in our wrists. So if you bend those at a hard bend, over time you will get numbness in your fingers, and you can damage it over time to where the feeling doesn't come back. And be mindful of your lower body. When you're sitting in your task seat, or if you're just sitting at home, remember that your spine should be a neutral S. It's just that natural S curve of the spine. And the best idea that I've ever thought of, you know, I was looking at someone, I go, wow, that person looks like they're a human cashew. I mean, they were literally like just sitting in a position to where everything was slouched into the letter C, and they just, you know, at that point, the gut goes, the neck goes forward. You're contorting your spine into the exact opposite of a neutral and natural spine. So you want to sit up and hold your carriage upright, and whether you're in a task seat or not. So these are some of the common fixes. And these little bits, I cannot emphasize enough, these little bits add up. So here's some tips for everywhere well-being, and it's your physical, social, cognitive well-being. And again, you'll have these in a little booklet for yourself. So again, minding your spine is so important. Aim for that 20 minutes sit to stand per hour, and be kind to your eyes. There's the Ophthalmology Association of America that says For every 20 minutes that you work on a computer screen, take a 20-second break to look out at a distance of at least 20 yards so that you are exercising your long distance vision. All right, so we'd love to remind folks that there was the computer vision syndrome is the recent topic, but we learned about short-term focal length whenever individuals were in World War II on a submarine. And if you think about being on a submarine, everything is only this far away. And so being submersed in a submarine, over time, those individuals' eyes, and they were all men, those men's eyes, they all formed this little short-term, short vision. And when they got off the sub, they could not see at distances. But the good news is that we have very elegant brains. They rewire very efficiently so that if you exercise your eyes and you look at a distance, you can stave off that computer vision syndrome. For those of you who aren't commuting as much anymore, the one good thing about a commute is that you're driving and you're looking down the road. So it is good for your eyes. So keep that rule in mind. So if you're stuck in a third place or if you're stuck at home, make sure you exercise your eyes. Headphones help our cognition. So if you're distracted, remember, you only have so much capacity in your brain to process information. Use those headphones if you need to do that deep thinking. Video chat is important. It gets really annoying to have video on all the time. It is fatiguing, but it does help in cognition because you can read people's expressions. You can see them nodding like, yes, I get it, or like, oh no, that makes no sense at all. So it does help cognition and communication. So try to video chat when you can. Natural light and views to the outdoors are so important for us. It sets our circadian rhythms, which regulate our hormones, and it does lift our spirit. We know that from clinical trials with healing, that views to the outdoors are so important. For heads down work, find a quiet space, but not necessarily a silent space. Silence, we found, is not golden. It can be very distracting to have it just completely silent. So look for a place when you are planting yourself to work that has a little bit of a buzz because it keeps you stimulated mentally. Keep your work tools around you ready and handy to use so it helps to reduce that cognitive load. If you start out your day and everything is scattered and you don't have your camera ready and nothing is right, you're going to waste a lot of energy and cognitive capacity just getting ready for that first meeting, and you don't want that. Be creative, and this is the whole point of this this little session, is to encourage you to find your own vibe, whether you're home or a coffee shop. Think about your pain points and be creative in how you solve for those. So we would love to sell you every single thing in our portfolio to support you ergonomically. That's what we do, but that's just simply not viable when you're going to third places and you're working in different locations. We're just wanting to provide this information so that you take care of yourself in a creative way, whether we do stacks of magazines, stacks of books, but be creative as you go about your day and take care of your posture. Take hard breaks. Don't eat at your desk. It's the worst thing you can do. Stop, clear your mind. Best yet, take a walk outside for a moment. Remember, when you're working from these third places or remotely, snack when you're only hungry. Don't just start snacking out of boredom. That can be very, very bad, but stay hydrated. So always have stuff on your desk to drink. And it also helps to remind you to get up because you have to go to the bathroom, get up and walk around. It forces that movement. So that is fantastic. And the very last thing is don't isolate. The US Surgeon General had a report just recently in the past 18 months that talks about loneliness as an epidemic. So it's very important for you to take care of your social ergonomics as well, your relations to other people. Don't isolate and shut yourself off entirely. It is good to go into the office and be around other people. And finally, we developed years ago, there's been now over 40,000 individuals take this assessment. This is a free work from home ergonomic assessment. You can go on workfromhome.hermanmiller.com, and it's just a little Quizlet to give you some insights into how you're working and guide you into some proper solutions. And that includes the formal content I have to share with you. But the whole point of this really was to have this time with you to answer your questions, hear your comments. And I would like to actually, and it's kind of funny, I would like to challenge you to ask me something I've never been asked before, because after spending an entire year with 15,000 people, I've been asked a lot of things. So I don't want to put anyone on the spot. However, I really do honor different individuals, privacy. So if you don't feel like you want to ask something on today's call, I don't want that to be a closed door to you. I want you to connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message, because I am open to answering questions that you have that are private. And that is part of what I do. So I'm happy to extend that to you after this. So I'm going to quit sharing, and if I can, and I'm going to turn it over to you all, and for the chat and for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm going to need my own lozenges here in a second. So it feels like. So yeah, we can go ahead if you guys want to unmute and ask questions or throw it down in the chat. I see, Kara, that you did drop one in the chat, so we'll start with you. Did you want to say it out loud, or you want me to read it for you?
Yeah, it probably has typos, so I'll just say it.
Okay.
I was trying to type in fast. I heard that we have an actually on-site wellness people, and so they come and they do like an ergonomic assessment, but it's been a while. And one of the things I think somebody told me one time is like you should have your monitor a little bit down so that your eyes are looking a little bit down, because your eyes look down easier than looking up. Is that true, or where should your monitor be? Should it be like right out in front of you, or is there a certain placement?
I'm glad you brought that up, Kara. Whenever the diagram is depicted, it shows that your eyes are cast to the top of your screen. And if you think about your content's usually more in the center of your screen. So yes, your eyes would be slightly cast down, but your head is more in alignment with the top. So, but having your screen high, that's a disaster, because you'll move your cervical spine out of its neutral position. And another part of looking at your monitors, many people have dual monitors. I just have one giant one. Many people have dual monitors. Be mindful. It's good for productivity, but if you use one of them primarily, you need to have that monitor centered on the bridge of your nose so that you don't work like this. I've seen so many people go, I have neck pain, and I go to their workstation and I see them working and they're just stuck in that position. And we have to, modify that. Everyone wants those monitors to be like kitchen cabinets and be so perfect and never move them. They should never be even. They should never be perfect. They should be on two independent monitor arms so that you can pull that one after lunch. Your eyesight kind of goes downhill. Pull your main monitor closer to you if you need to, tilt it, adjust it for glare, what have you. And that other one may even just be left behind. Don't be afraid to really change that up to accommodate your eyesight. Really, really good question. Thanks, Kara.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much.
I like that Victor said he was suddenly sitting upright. That happens.
Yeah. It's always a good reminder. I think we each need to do that to each other. We took a class they talked about it being a donut meeting, that if you have to say something bad, they're going to bring donuts, and kind of, it was kind of this thing. And so people were like, is this a donut meeting? So those good reminders for each other. Yeah, this is a meeting. We're going to have a little bit of a serious conversation. So maybe we need something like that. Like when you walk into someone's office, are you slouching?
Slouching, right.
Have you moved in 20 minutes?
Yep.
Does anyone else have any questions? Thoughts?
I think
Stacia. Oh, thanks, Kara.
Yeah, oh, thanks. I might have heard this wrong, but how important is a camera being at eye level? Because I remember something about the top third of the monitor should be where your eyes are, but usually, like for my camera, it's on top of that. So I'm usually looking up a bit. And I don't, if it was at eye level, it would be like in the middle of my monitor. So I'm just wondering, that's something I would have to change.
I'm sorry. So, and because I'm trying to picture this. So if your camera is like the independent cameras are usually mounted at the top of your monitor. And that's usually at, your eyes are cast to the top third of your monitor. So for me, if I'm looking at my content and I'm comfortable, I'm not looking at you. But if I just glance up, just a little bit. And I'm not looking really up. If I just glance up, now I'm making eye contact with the camera. So it's just a matter of inches, and it shouldn't, I don't think anyone expects someone, although I have a colleague who's really good at it, to stay like engaged with their eyes on the camera the entire time. That's a talent. You'll go back and forth, and there's not that much of a difference. If you find that your neck is having to move, then you might want to lower your monitor. But it's typically not that much distance between your content on your monitor and your camera.
Okay, okay. I think
Someone says, I'm too vain, I'm looking at myself in the camera.
Yeah, no, I do that too.
That's what they said. There's been like a boom in plastic surgery because people have looked at themselves for years and like, man, I need to have some work done. So don't look at the camera too much.
Thank you.
Other questions? I saw, who was on? Oh, that was you. Please ask any questions. I can't believe no one's going to ask me, can I sit on an exercise ball? I always get that question. I always get the question, can I sit on an exercise ball? So I'll just answer it. You can do whatever you want to do. But remember, you know, that starting position, that perfect posture, if you really are going to embrace that, you know, that good posture, I don't know anyone who's strong enough to sit on an exercise ball in perfect posture all day. And if you are that strong, I mean, bravo. But this is something that you need to take away. Your spine is supported by two sets of muscles. Some that are the tiny, tiny muscles called the multifidi, and those are your balancing muscles. So those are the ones that keep you upright. And then the ones that really anchor you are your rectus lumboris. So those are the big muscles. If you have a nice task chair with a back on it, the rectus lumboris are holding you up. So you're letting the big muscles do the work. If you're sitting on an exercise ball, those little tiny multifidi are doing all the work to keep you upright, and that is burning a ton of energy. So at the end of your day, you're going to have a lot more fatigue than if you just let your back be on the back of a chair. And so I always let people know it's your body, you know, you do as you will. If you have that much energy to burn, and maybe you're super young and you do, that you're like, I've got all kind of energy, I don't care about fatigue, I'm never fatigued. Well, then maybe you can, you know, use an exercise ball. But most people say, no, I want the end of my day to be the best part of my day. That's when I want the most energy. So no, I'm going to conserve my energy at work and use the back of the chair. So that's, you know, really why we encourage that kind of posture. That, and then I always hear from environmental health safety folks that, you know, if it drifts off, it can be a trip hazard. So yeah, I suppose so. You know, that's another aspect to using a ball.
Yeah.
Hi, Connie.
That's great.
Hello. I'm curious about the trend for people trying to do a treadmill. You know, they've got the little pictures of them trying to walk a treadmill or whatever while they're working.
Yes. Yeah, I see that on my Instagram all the time. I see the little bicycle things under the, you know, you can imagine my inbox is filled with things like that. The Office Ergonomic Research Committee does a lot. What it sounds like it sponsors a ton of research, mostly, you know, academic with universities, but some with other companies. And we come together, it's, you know, Apple, Dell, Amazon, it's, you know, a myriad of different companies that come together to support this committee. And you know, and frankly, we pay into the committee so that we can pay out these scholarships to fund this research. And some of the research is around that very thing. You know, can you do very fine, you know, fine motor skills while you're walking? Can you concentrate on extremely heavy concepts while you're walking? And the answer is, you know, it depends on the human. You know, we're all very different. A lot of people say, I can't handle it. I can't do that. I can't do numeric calculations when I'm walking, or, you know, there's certain impediments. So, you know, the answer is it depends, but there is research that's currently going on to look into that and give a more, you know, a more quantitative answer to say, you know, and I'm just making this up at this point, 70% of the people can't do it. That's being looked into, but it's certainly a topic of conversation in groups like the OERC.
It looks like that was one of the questions we had in chat too, so that's perfect. We got both of that.
Yeah, you can do, you know, there are certain things you can do, you know, on a treadmill, and that's fantastic. And I mean, that's wonderful. It just depends on what your job is. you know, if you could take, and I did take many conference calls with a gentleman who always walks on his treadmill, and he always walks on it. And initially I found it to be distracting for me to watch him do it, but then over time I got accustomed to it. So, you know, it's fantastic if you can do it. And how do you suggest starting an ergo adjustment? Take everything off the desk and set one thing at a time. Yes, I've determined it's hard, where to look at the my monitors. Okay, you know, one of your best things that you can implement is just getting a buddy to just check you out. You know, have someone come and check you out from the side, because sometimes it's really hard to be body conscious on our own. And so, like, all right, this is how I typically work, and take those diagrams that are, you know, the person sitting and then the person standing, and say, okay, do I look like the diagram? What doesn't look right to you? Because it's hard to see yourself from the side, you know, or you have maybe someone snap a picture of you from the side, and then start to work in that way. And remember, for women, most heights, surface heights, are too high for us. So there are two solutions. You can, and I don't like the first one, the keyboard tray. I'm not a keyboard tray fan, but there may be a fixed height surface that you simply cannot reach. You're gonna raise your task chair up, and then you're gonna have to find something to put under your feet. And it has to be something stable, or you're not gonna use it. Just human nature, we will not use it if it's flimsy. So, you know, enlisting a type of wedge to put under your feet, so your feet can be very secure. You can actually push off of the wedge and it doesn't move, something of that nature. So that's a good way to do it. I wouldn't take everything off my desk unless you just want to clean and dust. But a good way to, you know, start is just having someone check you out from the side, you know, and work from the top down. And for us women, it typically involves elevating our seat. I'll show you. Whoops, I lost my, well, I'm not going to show you. It's way in the back, but I have a wedge under that I have to have my feet when I sit, and I have a height adjustable surface, and it has to be extended range because it has to go down low enough for me, because I personally sit at my work surface at 27 inches from the ground, which seems very short, but anthropometrically we're all different. So you just have to kind of play with it and see where you fall. But that's what those diagrams help you do.
That's great.
Super good question. Why don't you like keyboard trays? Because, you know, you forget they're there and then you bang your knee on it. They can be knee knockers. If you are in that zone and you always work in that same place, you will become accustomed to it. But if you're someone who travels around and then you come back to it, you are apt to hit your knee on it. So that's just so many bruises. I mean, you know, or if you're visiting someone's desk and you sit there like, oh, you know, I've had that happen to so many people. But they do spare, especially individuals who have carpal tunnel. If that is, you know, the solution, you know, embrace it and just make yourself aware of it, and then warn people, yeah, don't sit at my desk. It's a knee knocker. You can't sit there. Any other questions, you all? You have some great insights. Great insights. She said, good for knees. Good for you. Good for you. And it is good not to, you know, some people, oh, when I cross my legs, I hit it. Don't cross your legs. Do your very, very best to not cross your legs as you sit at the desk. That is such a hard habit to break, but your pelvis, everything is in better alignment. If you insist on crossing your legs, try to balance it out and cross the other one as much as you cross that leg. So you have your favorite cross leg, flatten your feet out, try not to cross your legs, and then try to force yourself, because you will develop irregularities in your muscles if you constantly sit with one leg over the other.
Yeah. Those are great tips. Looks like we got another.
Yeah, work from home assessment. If we have plants and greeneries in the workplace, yeah, that's that basic biophilia. It's a concept that was codified by Kellert and other Wilson. So the fathers of biophilia, that there's, you know, scientific evidence that that patients, a clinical study, that patients actually heal faster when they have views of plant life and views to the outdoors, that it actually increases your healing, and that it settles your blood pressure, like very clinical studies around that. That's been applied to commercial settings and to work from home settings. So yes, have greenery in the workplace to boost your mood. And it doesn't have to be a plant right on your desk. it can be just looking outdoors at greenery or, you know, nature outdoors. I'm glad you caught that. Any
Well, I
other-
know I really appreciate all the hacks that you talked about. I know when we talked earlier, one of the things that your team, when they came to the port and did a physical assessment. And I have a standing height desk that I always keep at that, but my feet were dangling more. And they just had me turn over like a recycle bin, and it is perfect. And we have bought in recycle bins for everyone. And I literally just turn them upside down, and I just wrote for the janitor staff that they don't like put them back upright, but this is my footrest. Don't move it. And it has been perfect. So I love just the fact that there's just so many hacks for whatever height you're at. There's different ways to attack that. And I really appreciate that. It looks like Kara's getting ready to get moving.
Moving
Get
stuff
things taken
around.
care of. I love it. Yeah.
My favorite hack to date, from work from home environment for elevating, you know, using, you know, I hate the laptop, but using your laptop as a screen and then having an independent mouse and an independent keyboard is when one goes, well, I have this antique cake stand that I inherited that I've never, she's, I'm not a cake baker, but that is my elevation for my laptop because it's the perfect height. And like, wow, and it's fancy. I mean, how beautiful, right? So yeah, that was her Instagram moment with her own, you know, work from home hack to elevate her screen up to, you know, her eye level. And I love that one.
That is awesome. All right. Well, it looks like, yeah, we got some comments there. Anyone else? Oh, we got one here from Debbie. If you have two monitors, what if you have two monitors, but don't really use the one primary one?
You know, then you are, if you really do, and people will say, I use both of them equally. And I'm like, really be cognizant of your habits and see if you really do use both equally. If you use both equally, then your head is balanced. It's if you're not using one and you're using one really solely, that you develop that bad habit of just turning your head to one side. But if you're using them, you know, you're just there in the center, and then you're just like slightly moving, yeah, side to side. Okay. But only you know your content and how you're split. Just be aware, be aware of that.
Yeah.
And two, I'm on LinkedIn. You have my name, Rebecca Greier Horton. You can connect with me if you have. I've worked with people who have been in car accidents, taken falls from horses, pregnant women, people who are postmenopausal, having joint pain. I have worked with all sorts of folks on the spectrum. So please, if there's something that you go, I don't want to bring this up in this big audience, don't hesitate to ping me in LinkedIn and ask me a question. I'll be happy to connect you with the right resources, because your organization brought me in because they want you to be happy, healthy, have good cognition, and be completely pain-free. So thanks for your time today, and I really hope this helped.
Thank you, Rebecca. We're so glad that you joined us, even with your busy travel schedule, because I know from the time